Hello all. We have Mr. Tony Howard, the founder of Astrology University today, and it's a privilege and an honor to have you, Tony. Thanks for coming over.
Oh, and thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate being invited.
Okay, so I don't know how many of you in India at least know, but Tony Howard is the founder of the Astrology University, where he runs curriculum-based astrology course and also specific course sets which are being instructed by so many well-known and established astrologers and also teachers, those who are also writers and authors and whatnot. So, okay, before getting into Astrology University, would you like to talk about your entry into astrology and what was it like? How did you get fascinated by astrology? So, I'm sure everyone has a story and you will have a unique one too.
Yes, definitely. So I was aware of astrology from a young age because my mother used to read these little horoscopes that she would bring into the house. But when I was 15, I started babysitting for a woman who was an astrologer, and she gave me my first reading when I was 15. So that's really what got me hooked. She taught me a lot about astrology. I took care of her son for a couple of years, and so I got to know astrology through her, and then I started talking about astrology with my friends, and it became clear that I had more than just a passing interest in it, and that's how I got started, and then I just started studying more deeply.
Okay, and I think you also have a very good designing and software background, as I gather. So I think I'm sure it gives a lot of additional ideas and insights into setting up the astrological practice, not just for you, but also many other astrologers. I also heard that you're managing so many other things apart from the Astrology University.
Yeah, so my background is in magazine publishing, and I started doing web development in 2000, and I got started working with astrologers with web development because back then there were a lot of astrologers who had really great work, but their websites weren't very good. So I offered to help them improve their websites, and that's how I started working more with astrologers in that way. So it was kind of like they were side projects that eventually turned into really the whole focus of my work. And then during that same time, I was growing my own astrology consulting practice and doing my own astrology works too simultaneously. And so it all just kind of grew organically at the same time. And then as I started working with more and more astrologers, I brought them together under one roof. I created Astrology University in 2011, and I brought all those astrologers together there to try to reach people in that way with that new website.
Okay, so the Astrology University was established in 2011. So, and what was the basic motivation, and how did you go about establishing the Astrology University? Do you actually run in-house astrology classes, or it is just online webinars?
Yeah, so we started out just doing webinars and one or two in-person retreats or workshops a year here in Portland, Oregon, which is where I'm based. And we still do in-person events as well, but they're not like the focus of our work, because what we found online is we're able to reach a lot of people like yourself who are in other parts of the world who aren't able to come to in-person events. And it's just, it's really wonderful for the speakers and for the attendees to be able to reach people in all parts of the globe through the online webinars. So we really focused on that. And we also really, our intention was, there were already some longer, more expensive programs out there, but our intention was to make astrology more accessible to more people, and especially some of this, more serious astrology, might say, available to more people. And so we focused on doing shorter webinars with a lower price point, so a lower cost to watch the webinars, so that you could tune in for an hour on a Saturday and learn, something really deep about Jupiter and Scorpio, for instance. And then you can pursue your studies more intensely on your own. We will be rolling out a longer set of programs next year, 2 and a 4-year program. They're really they're still really flexible and open in terms of attendance. Like you don't have to pay for 2 years at once. For instance, you can just take each module on its own. But we'll be rolling that out in the next year. What we've focused on so far is being able to offer very specialized topics with very well-known and established astrologers at a lower price so that lots of people can afford to attend and join us.
Yeah, I'm sure, because as I see the Facebook group and the page, they're really growing and people are really liking to be part of the Astrology University. And that is one of the most insightful groups and pages that I have found out in Facebook, because there are so many groups that actually lay very silent, but still the Astrology University group is always there, giving up some kind of news or some kind of discussion, very useful discussions. And there was some of those discussions based upon the books that were going, and that is just one, and it was very interesting. And I think Nicholas is the moderator of the group, and he does really a fantastic job in terms of managing the group.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, Nicholas is he's a great asset. He's the moderator for the group, which you wanted to talk about our summits today, and the summits kind of have been taking place in part on Facebook to make it really accessible to people, and he's there to help folks with all that and to moderate things and to keep the discussion going. So he's there, almost every day to help keep the group going and keep the discussions lively.
Yeah, I think I really wanted to mention and talk about him and know something about him from you. So.
Oh yeah, Nicholas. Well, I can tell you really briefly. Nicholas has been a part of a really long-running astrology conference here in the Pacific Northwest. It's held in Seattle every year, and it's called the Northwest Astrology Conference. And he has been working in the bookstore there for and helping out with the conference for many, many years. And so he knows. He's a wealth of information. He's a Gemini, and he knows. If you want to ask about any astrology book, he's the guy to ask, because he's been around all of the books for a long time, and so he has, he can refer to you to just the right book, and he's a really great asset and resource, and we're really glad to have him.
Yeah, I sensed that because I saw one of his Facebook pictures he was posting with Hellenistic astrology book, but when you search where Nicholas is, we could see only his eyes. He was posing from somewhere under the table or something like that. So yeah, okay. So the other thing is the establishment of Astrology University. How did it happen, and what was the basic motivation behind? Because I think that could have been the spark of what is facilitating so many young astrologers, not just young, but so many astrology enthusiasts that are trying to learn and be in the astrological community today.
Well, one of the intentions is to introduce people to many different styles and viewpoints of astrology. So often when we study astrology, we'll be on our own, for instance, and we'll find one teacher. And maybe that's not the best teacher for us, but that's the one that we find, and we start learning with them. And we might have a positive experience, or we might have a negative experience, but that one teacher kind of is in charge of that whole experience. Whereas if you go to a school, if you go to a university, any university, you don't just get exposed to one teacher, you get exposed to many teachers. And that actually helps you learn better. It helps you start to think for yourself. It helps you to think critically, because you'll have some professors that you like, some professors that you don't like. And sometimes we learn even more from the ones that we don't like. But then you can, it really facilitates learning. And so I wanted to recreate an experience like that, where students can get exposed to many teachers and many points of view, so that we have a better learning experience with astrology, and a more critical learning experience as well. And so that was my intention from the beginning, was to bring several people together under one roof, just like we would in a real university or a school. Now, in the United States, even though we're called a university, we're not like an accredited university. I don't know if you have that term there.
I
but
I saw it on your website. So
they don't allow astrology to be accredited in the United States. So so we're not like a real, you know, a real accredited university. You can't get a degree in astrology in the United States. There is a school where you can learn astrology as part of your degree at CIIS in the Bay Area on the West Coast, where Richard Tarnas teaches. If you're familiar with him,
yeah.
it's a very rich and amazing program that includes astrology, but it's not a program that teaches you how to become an astrologer. And that's really more of what we're about, is to if you like, to teach people how to become astrologers. And we also have a lot of students who are just interested in astrology for personal growth. So we offer classes that reach both types of students.
Okay. So will Vedic astrology feature in Astrology University's list of webinars? Is there?
Yes. We try to really grow slowly and carefully, but I'm definitely plan on adding Vedic astrology to our roster. And so I'll be doing. I don't have a date set yet of when we'll have our first Vedic astrology lecture, but I'm definitely open to that and would like to make that happen.
Okay. And the Astrology University Summit, the 2 summits that you have done live on Facebook and also the Zoom. So that was one of the greatest experiences to someone like me who has been in India, and it is almost like a dream to attend a live conference in the USA or the UK. So I think it was a virtual experience for someone like me, and it's almost, see, it's not impossible, but still it's almost very difficult for me to come over, even though I have plans in the future. But still, it is very difficult for me to come over to attend a conference in the USA, and it involves so much of not just financial hurdles, but also a lot of other things. So, and especially the second summit that on the list of astrologers, they're all like demigods when I started learning astrology, and it was like a dream come true to see that kind of a lineup as part of the summit. So I think I'm really thankful and grateful to you and the Astrology University for bringing out not just the second summit, but also the first summit, where I'm forgetting the names of so many people who gave so many lectures in the first summit, but I think I really liked everything. And I just remember 2 people's name. One is Colin Bedell, and the other is Amy Alexander Jones. It's very difficult to forget her lecture.
Yeah.
And Colin is like an amazing speaker. So likewise, I liked every lecture. It's very hard to choose which was good or which was best. And you guys gave a very hard time in terms of creating a poll of which is the best lecture. So that was one of the hardest experiences that I have had. And so would you like to talk about that? And it's really a huge experience for someone like me. That is something that comes out of my heart. So
thank you so much for sharing that. And that really, when we heard from several people with a similar story, that it was really such a gift for them to be able to attend, especially with the lineup of speakers that we had, and that made us all feel really wonderful. We're really honored to be able to bring astrology to all these different places in the world, and to people who, because, one of the things that you may not know about the summit if you didn't attend is that it's free to watch for 48 hours. So for 2 days, it's free to watch, which just means that if you can't afford to travel, and if you can't even afford, maybe you can't even afford $25 for a webinar or $100 to own the summit, because you can purchase the recordings too. But even if you can't, you can watch it for free. You just have to carve out the time on your schedule, and then you can watch online for free. And it was really it just feels like such a gift and a blessing to be able to receive the appreciation from people who are being able to attend in that way. And we're really honored. All of us feel really great about that. So there are 2 summits. the first summit that you were talking about is called Fresh Voices in Astrology, and it's actually separate from Astrology University. It's now its own website, and it's basically the intention behind that website is to give a platform to new astrologers and to also to help spread honor and respect and give voice to diversity in astrology by giving many different types of speakers a platform and speakers from different backgrounds, and so that's the intention there. And Amy's lecture was really amazing. Amy Alexander Jones, she did a lecture for us about raising children consciously with astrology. That was really, really wonderful. And she's a dear friend of mine, so I was really glad that she got the opportunity to give that lecture. And then our second summit, which is actually the first summit for Astrology University, includes most of the main teachers from Astrology University. So, and that was centered around the topic life purpose and destiny, which is a big topic that we all think about and talk about with astrology. And so I thought it'd be really great to hear from some of these wonderful seasoned speakers talk about these topics. And as you know from listening to the summit, there was like no one way to approach the topic, and everybody had something unique to share. It was a really, really enriching and beautiful experience to be a part of. So yeah, and then really gratifying to get the feedback that we've been getting from people all over the globe, and people who are still watching the summit now. You can log in to get the recordings now, but we'll be having another summit next year. Yeah, we'll be having another summit next year for Astrology University, and Fresh Voices will also have another summit as well. So more summits to come, and yeah, so if you didn't tune in before, you'll have another chance for sure.
And yeah, as you said, it was very enriching. It was an enriching experience, as it is. Listening to Stephen Forrest speak for an hour is like reading a book of 300 pages. So, so yeah,
I'm sure he'd appreciate hearing that.
Yeah, see, see, this kind of an experience comes because the Astrology University has made something possible that was virtually or literally impossible for people in the other part of the globe, like the astrology enthusiasts in India and other Asian countries like Pakistan and Sri Lanka. So I saw some other South Asians like Pakistanis, and those people were also present viewing the lectures given by, especially I think I found someone in Frank Clifford's lecture. So the first lecture,
Great.
Second summit. So yeah, it's like a huge bridge that you have created. So probably you are the Mercury of the astrological community. So.
Yeah, my chart is ruled by Mercury, and I'm so Mercury is the best planet in my chart, strongest planet. You could say it like that, and that. So I love helping facilitate connections, and I love helping spread information and introducing people to knowledge. And one of the things that I loved about the summit that I didn't know was going to happen is that in the chat rooms, people made new friends, people made new connections, people connected over things in their own charts, and it led to really amazing conversations that people had. So there were so many benefits that were just even, I didn't even foresee happening. So it was really just such a cool thing to be a part of.
I think I just wish and hope that you continue doing this, because one of the most interesting things that I found in the chat or the comment thread boxes is that it is not just about astrology, but if someone has a technical glitch logging in or viewing the video, they didn't just wait for the moderators and the other like members who are actually dealing with the summit and the normal people and the enthusiasts. They just took over and they took the initiative to actually help others. And the other beautiful thing is that people didn't wait for the lecturer to actually come and answer, or because at the end of the lecture they had hardly 5 or 10 minutes and it's quite impossible for the lecturer to actually answer everything. So there were some really good and experienced astrologers along with the young astrologists and the young enthusiasts in the viewing thread and the experienced people and the other people, those who have been in the astrological community for quite some time, uh, took an initiative to actually help and explain things in the Facebook comments, and that is uh, that is an entirely different experience which that people would not expect at all. So that is
Yeah, I'm really, really proud of that as well of the community that we have, and the people that we have in our community are all, I mean, in general, have really open, warm, generous hearts, like you said. And so I thought it was great that when someone's having trouble, that people in the community are jumping in there to help out too. Because we have people on hand, we have people, customer support people that are there to help people. But when there are, you know, hundreds of people logging on at once, it's hard to take care of everybody at once. So it was really helpful, but it was also really, it's just beautiful that, you know, the group of people that come together under Astrology University have such a warm and generous spirit. And I'm really grateful for that as well.
so. And the other thing that I wanted to ask is, like, how would you differentiate between a self-learned uh, astrological curriculum and a professional curriculum like what you have in the Astrology University? Because I'm like a self-taught astrologer, not just self-taught, but I had a mentor in my grandfather, but still I live about 300 kilometers away from him, and it's more of a it's more of an experience sharing that I had with him, even though I grew up listening to astrology. So I would have liked to have I would have liked to have a curriculum-based education as it is, because I know the shortcomings that I had uh, after being self-taught for so many years. So not so many years, but just 6 or 7 to 8 years. So that's how it is. I asked the same question to Frank, and I would like to have uh, like your perspective as well, and I'm sure it will be very helpful to those people, even though who are self-taught.
Sure, sure. So one thing about being self-taught is that, you know, because astrology is not in the United States, it's not a path of education that you can get a degree in. It is easy to just teach yourself. Well, easy is not the right word, but it's possible to teach yourself by finding books and connecting with other, you know, astrology groups in your community, if those exist. But even without those, just through books alone. But what you find when you start reading charts is it's really helpful to have a mentor at least, or to have some kind of guidance, because there's the book knowledge, then there's also what happens when you're with a real human in a real birth chart, and the process that you go through to combine archetypes, for instance, isn't something you can really easily explain in a book. There are certain types of teaching that just work better in conversation or in the presence of a teacher, or where you can ask your specific question, right? You can't ask your question to a book and get an answer. You can look through the book and try to find the answer, but you might have a real specific question that the book doesn't even answer. So another thing that can happen, I talked about earlier, which is that if you're studying on your own, you don't even have somebody to recommend the best books to you. So you may not find the best books. You may study with books that aren't as good as others, and you just don't know better, right? And so you're not necessarily getting the best education. You can get lucky and find the good books because they're out there and they're available, but you'd basically just be getting lucky if you're just on your own. Whereas if you're studying under a curriculum, that curriculum has been curated and planned by professionals, hopefully, and who have thought through what works in education, what you need to know. They've picked the best books, they've picked the best teachers, and that's what we try to do at Astrology University. But I do think also that it's another path to learning astrology is to just have a mentor. And the way that I recommend people find a mentor is to get readings with many different astrologers, and then find the astrologer that you really like the most and find out if they're available to mentor you. This is really more for an advanced stage of learning where you already know some of the basics and you're ready to start interpreting charts. You need to learn those first. But once you're at the point where you're starting to learn how to read charts, having a mentor to guide you that you can check in with when you have a question, when you have a problem, and then having that direct transmission of knowledge and information, I think, is another really useful and beneficial path. And so we offer, at Astrology University, we help people connect with mentors as well. And I do some mentoring myself through the school. And we also just try to help people find a path to education. Because of everything that you've been mentioning, people come to us who have been studying for years, and maybe they've done some combination of lots of different studies, and we try to help them get more clear about their path and what they're interested in learning now, or where they feel like they are weak in certain areas and strong in certain areas, and try to help them feel like they're strong in all of the areas, and give them guidance in that way too.
Okay, great. Words of wisdom to those students who are trying to set up their astrological practice. And
yeah, so basically just one of the biggest mistakes that you can make learning anything as a beginner, whether it's astrology or something else, is if you don't ask experts for help about like how to structure your studies, or just what books to read first. You're just shooting in the dark, and then it's just a matter of luck at that point. So it's really good to if you want to study on your own, you can do that, but not everybody is good at studying on their own. But if you are good at it, you can do it. I still recommend that you reach out to an astrologer that you respect or know, and ask them what book to read first. It's a lot of people are available by email these days, so there are ways to do it on your own. But like you said, I think having a curriculum where someone's basically thought of all this already for you and put together a curriculum for you, that's probably a really great way to go for most people.
Okay, so I also wanted to ask about some of the suggestions that you give to the students who are trying to set up their own astrological practice. As in the Astrology University, do you also give some kind of training in order to set up a practice or something like that? Because I'm sure you'd give live experiences or case sessions in terms of giving a reading to someone, because that is very much part of astrology. But do you really help or give some kind of advice to people in terms of setting up their own practice?
Yeah, we don't have something available right now, but we will in year 4 of the program. So we'll be starting a 4-year program next year, and in the 4th year, we'll be helping people on that level. What we do have right now are we have a course called Counseling Skills for Astrologers that helps astrologers improve their ability to connect with people. And so that's actually part of what you need in a professional program that's really going to help you start to have a practice. It's one component of it. We don't have a class right now in the business component, for instance, but we will. We'll be offering that soon, and to help people set up a practice. We do have a few webinars, though, that are about, for instance, Frank Clifford did a webinar on how to prepare for a consultation. So and that's something that you need to learn along the way. Like, just what do you do? How do you set up your space, and what do you focus on? If you're just going to do one reading for a person, what do you focus on? There are so many things you can focus on in the birth chart. What do you focus on? And so he gives some really practical advice on that in that webinar. We also have some webinars about how to do that with timing readings, and how to distill down what to focus on and how to prepare for readings. So, but we will have a full, probably a half-year module that's just about how to set up your practice, how to prepare for practice, and how to create a successful business as a consulting astrologer.
Okay. Brilliant. So I've seen you so many times in this background, but I think this is the first time I'm seeing in a conversation with me. So thank you so much for joining, and it has been a pleasure. And
yes, and thanks for asking me. I really appreciate it, and I'm glad you've been enjoying the summit, and it's really great seeing the work that you're doing.
Thank you so much.